Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome, welcome. Hopefully everyone had a great trading day today. Man alive, we finally got the markets to move. I certainly cannot complain by any means. Give me 1 second here. There we go. All right, as always, before we jump on in, make sure to swing it over to slingshotfutures.com. Very important to go through and understand everything that we're looking to do here. So if you scroll down, first of all, click on the Join the Daily Outlook newsletter. From there, you're going to be able to register for our newsletter email list to be notified every time one of these videos comes out. Along with that, in the newsletter, we talk about a bunch of stuff that we just don't have time to talk about in the live stream, and that's going to be everything from stocks, options, crypto, forex, you name it. If it's moving, it'll show up in there, so make sure to sign up for that so you don't miss anything important. Along with that, go over to the live trading subscription and trial info. From there, you can register for a free 3-day trial in the room. You can hang out with us for a couple days, see how we trade, see how we approach the markets, ask some questions, have some fun with us, and overall just enjoy a really great experience. So make sure to sign up for that if you haven't done so already. Now, looking at the news for tomorrow, we do have another calendar, I won't say full of stuff, but a decent amount of things going on here. Out of the Euro side of things, we have the CPI for April forecasted at 1.2% coming out at 5 o'clock. At 8 o'clock out of the Eurozone, we have ECB's President Draghi speaking. At 8:30, we have the building permits for April out of the U.S. forecasted at 1.35 million. And then, of course, tomorrow is Wednesday, so we do have the crude oil inventories as well coming out at 10:30. The crude oil inventories forecasted at negative 1.467 million. The previous was negative 2.197. Don't forget, later today at 16:30, around 4:30 or so Eastern Time, we'll be able to see the API report, which actually gives us generally a little bit more of an accurate prediction of what the inventories will be. So make sure to look out for those API numbers a little bit later. And then, of course, tomorrow evening at 21:30 out of Australia, we have the employment change for April forecasted at 20.3K. Not a ton of stuff going on. We do have a few things on the calendar for tomorrow. Fingers crossed that will keep things moving. I've been thoroughly enjoying all the movement that we've been seeing today, but, it's always nice to have that keep going instead of what we've normally been seeing where we have a big, huge day of movement and then everything craps out for a week. We really don't want to see that. Starting off on the euro has absolutely collapsed. Fell right back down below 1.2. Yesterday we were talking about wanting to see a little extra conviction, breaking down through 1.2, coming back, retesting it, and then selling off. It didn't even give that. It popped up one candle here, one candle there, never continued, and just got absolutely destroyed to the downside. Might have missed the boat on that one if you weren't a little bit more on the aggressive side of things, but that's okay. Price did what we were looking to do. We might not have been able to jump on board along with it. That happens. Nice drive to the downside, back to the lows, and we have had that pop through the bottom. And the big thing that we were looking for after that drive down was testing those lows right down there, 18480, right? That is the level that we've been talking about for a very long period of time. And if we look at today's low is 19380. Oh, weird, right? Man, look at that. That's wow. Yeah, we can zoom in as far as we want, and you're not going to see it go through it because that was the low, 18,480. We called the low yesterday, which is a move that we were really looking for on the euro. So a beautiful bounce off of major support. And now with this breakdown, that is going to create an area of interest. It's not a perfect level of resistance like I like looking for, but this is something that I do want to keep an eye on. Because of the amount of bearishness that came in on that drive lower, if the market does return to 19,555, I am definitely interested to see what happens. So I am going to be marking that as an area of interest there. Along with that, support at the lows at 18,555 did technically hold. It never closed underneath it. Of course, picking the low at 18,480 exactly. We called that about 24 hours ago. Well, yeah, that worked out pretty good. Nice little bounce off of that, bouncing all the way back up into the range. And now we're just seeing a little bit of consolidation here, which is to be expected. When you have a persistent bear trend like this, we're assuming that we're going to be selling everything. Beforehand, we were talking about selling swings, selling highs, selling previous swing lows, selling major areas of interest. All of those would have worked, and now we come back today after talking about a failure below 1.2, and that thing just went smashing lower. That's the kind of environment that we're in right now with the euro. Whenever you have a really strong, persistent trend, it doesn't matter how big the correction gets, it's very likely going to return back to the lows unless it breaks out through the highs. And, well, for this to break out through the highs, it's got a heck of a long way to go. So, beautiful drive to the downside, and now really what I'm looking for is either One of two scenarios. The sellers are taking a pause. They're taking some profit at major support. I don't blame them. I don't think anybody would blame them. And then looking to continue and smash down through the lows. That's scenario one. I would consider that the low probability scenario. I don't think that has as good of a chance to work compared to the next scenario, which would be going into a short-term range. Seeing bouncing back and forth for the next few bars here, a little bull bar, bear bar, bull bar, you know, see it chop around for a bit would make a lot more sense where the euro stands right now. We're sitting on top of major support. We've retested the low on an exhaustive type, just blow off bear bar. Very likely we're going to see some, you know, consolidation here, see the market wrap up a little bit, and then with a bear bias looking to sell again on any type of corrective phase up, especially on that 19,555 area. Beautiful play overall. I don't think we could have called it any better. I mean, just worked out to the T. So putting in a new low, very shallow new low, and a nice little bounce off of that. So looking for consolidation with a sell side bias. Looking good there on the euro. On gold, oh man, I think saying gold fell off a cliff, or you know, it fell. Just, you know, gold fell. I think that would be the understatement of the month. We have a monstrous collapse on gold. Broke through 1,300 and just hasn't looked back. Jumped straight off the cliff and forgot to pack a parachute. This thing is hammering to the downside. Huge amount of bear pressure lower, and really everything is just kind of falling apart in terms of support. Anything that the buyers had going for them was a complete failure. We had major support here, big round number at 1,300. We've been looking for these areas for a very long time and just diced it right through. Didn't pay any attention to it. Well, a little bit if you look at the faster time frame. But for the most part, I mean, the sell side pressure is immense today. Now, if we look at those areas, you can see here, you know, this one just hacked right through it. Nice little bounce there, nice little bounce there. Didn't even pay attention to 1,300. Just monstrous amount of bear pressure lower. So with that amount of bear pressure lower, the anticipation is that sellers are probably going to continue. We've seen a lot of movement to the downside, and a lot of buyers are probably stuck on the wrong side of things, and they're hoping just, please pull back, let them get out, right? So that's kind of scenario that we're looking at right now, where any type of corrective phase back up towards 1,300, 1,301.3, 1,304.2, any of those earlier areas of support that we were talking about, now become levels of interest to sell, because all of those buyers, if it does come back, are going to be looking to liquidate, get out, right? They'll try to average down like normal, right? We see this very frequently, especially with larger firms, where they're buying in, big support, they're buying in, completely fails, they'll buy more down here at whatever their next favorite price is, bounce it back up, exit everything in that area so they can make a small profit here, get out at break even or a scratch there, and then you'll see it turn right back over and hammer down. So looking for a small inside correction here on gold back towards those areas of interest at around 1,300 up to 4.2 for a rollback over again for the sellers to take back over. Overall, everything else looks really good. We have a new level of resistance on that dive lower at 13.8. Not that big of a surprise. This is a confirmed level of resistance that is driving down. Heavy drive down. Now, the support level at 1.3, because we have 1,300 there, and that level, you know, intraday on the 5-minute chart did hold really well, but the support at 4.2 didn't do much of anything. I'm going to pay a little bit less attention to that and get rid of this kind of range scenario that we have here, and just look for a retest of around 1,300 to 1,301.3. So that's what we're looking at going into tomorrow for gold. Over on crude oil. Crude oil, oh man, I don't think we could have called this one any better. Literally a perfect setup on crude oil. We were talking about yesterday, and actually for several days now, finding some selling pressure at 71.89. There's your chart. We popped up 71.89. It went a little bit further. I think it went up to, let's see here, what's the high? 92. So it went up to 71.92 and got decimated to the downside. Huge bearish pressure. I was really only looking for 71.89 to push back to 71.03, maybe down to 70 like we were talking about before. But, you know, 71.03 was the big objective. That was, you know, almost 90 cents down. It's gone a little bit further than that. We dropped almost $1.50 on the way lower, and now looking for the big magnet at 70 to start playing in. And this really confirms what we were talking about yesterday in the analysis, is that this looks like it's going to be a bull flag in a weak market. It's an overextended market, so looking for a trap on the highs. That's where we were talking about 71.89. and looking for it to roll back over and push back to the downside. Downside objectives being 69.12 after it gets to the $70 magnet area, right? So absolutely picture perfect on crude oil. I don't think we could have done any better on that one. And really, what we're looking for now that 71.89 area is gone is for the overall completion of the standard deviation of the range. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, we had the original range here, and we deviated one range deviation up, right? This is considered SD1. That's a standard deviation 1, right? It's 100% up. Then we went looking for standard deviation 2, SD2, and that one completely missed. So with that miss on the highs, looking for the market to roll back over and overcorrect, potentially all the way back down to 67.23. We've got a long way to go before we start seeing something like that. We got the major reversal that we were looking for up here down to 71.03. Now it's just icing on the cake to see if it wants to go further towards 69.12. Really what I'm gunning for is 70 initially. We'll see what the response is there. So far that 70 level has been a little bit shaky. So we'll give it some time around that 70. But if they can start cracking through that, next one is going to be at 69.12. Beautiful level of support or resistance, potentially even going into a new little range here outside of these range deviations, but no need to really update or change anything. Just kind of keeping an eye on things as they stand at the moment. Looking good. Nothing else to really add. Just looking for the bears to continue the drive lower in the overnight, trying to push down to that $70 level. And then the S&P. The S&P had a little bit of a trip today, fell off of the highs and broke through levels of support. Those are now gone. And we're creating another area where we have a new level of resistance at 38.25, but we also have an area of interest at the highs of that big bear blow-off, right? 27.5. That's going to be the next area of interest there. Now, it's not a perfect level, so we're going to make it a dash dot so we know that something's up with it. But I am curious to see what happens when the market comes back to 27.5. Do the sellers defend? Do they reload? Maybe they just completely give up and it goes flying higher. These are the things that we're going to really have to kind of keep an eye on in terms of the overall movement on the S&P. Downside objective, I'm still looking for the exact same thing, looking for sellers to continue down to 97.25. Might have a little bit of a hard time at 2,700 because it's a big whole number. Generally, things get a little bit hung up around those whole numbers, but we will be keeping an eye on it one way or another. Looking really good. So new level of resistance on the S&P at 38.25, extended resistance at 27.5, and then looking for the target below at 97.25, maybe even a little bit further. We'll have to wait and see. Looking good, looking good. Now, we are getting a little bit more information on the highs here. Beforehand, the big problem is that we've been having this wedge top coming across the highs, but it didn't pay any attention to it. It just kind of blew through it, didn't do a whole lot, running into a little bit of a problem. So what we can do now that we have a little bit more info, let's extend this to the new high that we have over here to give us something a little bit more recent to work with. So a new possibility of a wedge top coming off of the highs, anchoring on that new swing. We have plenty of information to show us that this is probably going to be a confirmed swing, I would have to say. So looking for a redraw on that wedge top. Aside from that, though, everything else stays pretty much the same. Just looking for a little bit more bearishness to the downside to finish off the objective. What a day. What a day, what a day. We had plenty of movement, and that's the kind of stuff that I like seeing. So let's take a look at some stocks here, see what's going on in stock land. So first of all, from the newsletter, again, if you're not subscribed to the newsletter, you're missing out. This was one that we were talking about yesterday on OKTA, that is Okta Inc. We were looking at a pullback day today and looking for a corrective phase, from yesterday, corrective phase down, buying into the corrective phase and shoving it back up. And that was a area of interest at around 48. Currently, it's sitting up $1 from that point, up about 1.8% on the day, with a low down at 47.13, with a high of 49. So beautiful move. This is exactly what we were looking for from yesterday's newsletter. I don't think we could have pinned that one any better as well. It just absolutely killed it on yesterday's analysis, all through and through, everything. Just really rocked it apart. Messed up a little bit on gold that didn't pay any attention to the support, but aside from that, everything else across the board worked out beautifully. So OKTA is seeing a rally to the upside. Next objective would be back towards the big level at 50, up towards the highs, maybe reaching out to 51. But really, when we're looking at these kinds of dip buys after an extended rally to the upside, predominantly, I'm just looking for 1 day of bullishness, right? Give me 1 day of bullishness so that we can just get in at the open, get out at the end, and call it a day, right? So with that in mind, this one's sitting up about $1 from where we were talking about it yesterday. Actually opened up with a gap down with a quick run, so there was a chance to get an even better price, another $1 lower. But overall, certainly not going to complain about OKTA. Worked out beautifully. Next one is Twitter. Twitter's been on the radar for a while, having a hard time breaking above that 33.5 area and pulling back. Not doing too much of anything today. Had a pretty sharp sell-off in the morning, and then popped right back up, and now it's just kind of stuck in the middle. You can see on the 5-minute chart here. Had a really strong drive down, bounced all the way back up. Now it's not doing anything. So relatively calm and collected there on Twitter. Not much else. Aside from that, you know, the overall move still, you know, we pretty much nailed it on this one. Looking for the upside objective at around 35 next up to retest the highs of that giant bear bar there. And if they can start breaking through that, then we're looking for 37. Still looking good, just pulling back a little bit. I did hear some news on Boeing today as well. Didn't really do much. It hasn't really made much of an impact there, so not too concerned about that. I did just hear, what was it? Where did it go? It was, I think I had it on my other computer. Hang on. That's what it was. Starbucks. There was some chatter on Starbucks looking to potentially, it's just chatter, but potentially looking to acquire Blue Apron, APRN. Now, there did obviously catch a really strong lift to the upside on that news, but for the most part, it's kind of calmed down. Not a whole lot going on. If you look at the faster time frame here, you can see, you can pretty much guess where they announced that one, right about there. So, you know, again, it's just chatter. There's nothing really proven yet, but if that does happen, we could see Blue Apron catch a really nice lift in the coming days. Definitely something that I will be keeping an eye on. For the most part, Blue Apron has been downtrending for a very long period of time. Not anticipating this to do anything too crazy. And then another one is a recent new one. You can see here, this is the daily chart. Got 3 candles. Yeah, good job. That's HUYA, Huya. Beautiful movement to the upside today, and they are giving quite a bit of it back, but we started off with a huge amount of volume. There's obviously a lot of interest in Huya. Volume 11.5 million on day 1. Yesterday they put in 3.8 million, now today at 2.3 million, and it's still rising higher. So that is showing that we're probably going to see a pullback sooner than later, but that first pullback will likely get bought. Now that we have a really strong bullish bias, we're seeing that the first candle wasn't that great, but the second one closing above the previous, this one probably going to close above that. We're seeing some good bullish continuation to the upside with a really shallow bull channel. Everything is looking pretty good here on a pullback. So looking for a dip underneath one of these previous low of days, it's about all we have to work with as an area of interest. Currently right now it's about 1775 as a zone of interest on Huya for a bounce back. A little bit difficult when you only have 3 days of data to work with, but that's kind of the situation. We have a nice strong rally to the upside. Everything's looking good. There's plenty of interest, plenty of volume. Looking for that to want to continue. So that's really all of the stocks that I was really keeping a close eye on today. CLWT was another one that I was paying a lot of attention to today. But every time I tried to execute a trade, it kept getting rejected. Just a really kind of gross market. Kind of upsetting too, because the trade that I was looking at getting on CLWT on the faster time frame here, I was looking at buying this early morning rip here. I tried executing a market order here, tried executing a market order here, tried executing a market order there. Every single one of them kept getting rejected before a rally to the upside. I don't know what that is all about, but I definitely gave it a shot. Kind of disappointing that it didn't work out for a quick little run to the upside. May not look like a whole lot, but that's from 570 all the way up to almost 640, so it is a pretty good move for such a cheap stock. But aside from that, that's about the only thing I was really watching today. So if there are any stocks or anything you want me to take a look at for you, futures markets, crypto, whatever, you name it, we'll go over it for you. Just type it in, and we'll take a look. And then if we don't hear anything, we'll wrap it up a little bit earlier, and we'll call it a day. Certainly can't complain with today's movement, though. Man alive. Of course, we do have some of our regular offenders, right? If we look back at the crypto side of things. One of the very common ones I've been hearing a lot lately is NEO, NEO BTC. We're resting on a major level of support. It's not really getting a good bump to the upside yet. Could be looking for a little more continuation, but that 75 area is definitely interesting. I'd prefer to see a little bit of a dip lower. You know what? I mean, honestly, this is one of those things where I see the situation to the upside. It's rallied all the way up to 0.015. That was the high. And then started pulling off. And sitting at 7.5, that's half back. So the fact that it's half back, it's 50% off from the highs. NIO is still a good company. That hasn't changed. It's a good project, and it pays a dividend. So it really rewards you for hanging on to those coins for a long period of time as well. Yeah, it's looking like it's getting pretty interesting here. The next major area of support on NIO is down at 0066. That would be the next level of support I'd be looking for. Drop that down here, get that out of the way. All right, well, I'm not seeing any other markets coming in, so perfect. As always, make sure to click the little subscribe button underneath the video. Click the little bell icon to the right of that, or to the wherever that is, to the right of that, so you're notified every time one of these videos comes out. Aside from that, if you have any questions, feel free to send me an email, jbrink@slingshotfutures.com. Enjoy the rest of the day. Hopefully you had an awesome trading morning. Hopefully you have a great trading morning tomorrow. We've got a plan, and like we always say, it doesn't matter what market you're trading, always make a plan. Trade the plan, follow those rules, and you'll be A-okay. Until next time, we'll see y'all later.